Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are taking you on this really fascinating step-by-step roadmap,
Hmm.
moving from the basic theory of habit formation all the way down to, actual daily practice.
Right, the practical stuff.
Exactly. And our source material today is an incredible collection of notes and excerpts from James Clear's work, Atomic Habits.
It's such a foundational text.
It really is. And the mission for you listening is simple, but honestly, it's powerful. We are going to explore the core mechanics of behavior change, show you how to audit your current life, and explain how you can use incredibly small routines to manage a busy schedule.
Which everyone has.
Right. So we'll talk about how to maintain high grades and achieve your ultimate long-term potential without feeling that, crushing weight of overwhelm.
Yeah, and that's really the ultimate goal here. Today is about understanding the why behind our actions. Because
Yeah.
once we understand the underlying psychological mechanisms, we can actually, we can rewire the how. It's a very calm, almost analytical approach to dismantling all that chaos that just sort of creeps into our daily lives.
I am so ready for this.
Yeah.
Usually when we talk about fixing a problem in our lives, we expect it to be like using a GPS system.
Oh, totally.
Right? Like you punch in your destination, the map calculates the exact route and highlights every single turn you need to make in bright blue. It's comforting.
We like having the steps laid out.
Exactly. We like our paths to success to be visible. But when you step into the world of human behavior and actually try to change your habits, it's not a brightly lit map.
No, not at all.
It's more like trying to navigate a pitch black room where someone just keeps moving the furniture. You know where you want to go, but the actual diagnostic landscape of your own life is just murky.
It is the absolute definition of muddy waters. And the reason it feels like a pitch black room is because, well, most of the time, we can't even see the invisible routines that are quietly dictating our success or our failure.
Right, they're just automatic.
Exactly. They're operating completely beneath the surface of our awareness.
And the power of shining a light on those tiny changes is just insanely fascinating to me. But before we get into how to build this roadmap and turn the lights on, we really have to understand why small habits have so much leverage.
Mm-hmm.
And the author's own story in the source material is a profoundly intense place to start.
It really is. It perfectly illustrates how small routines aren't just, clever life hacks for productivity nerds.
Right, it's not just about optimizing your morning coffee.
Exactly. They can actually function as vital rescue lines when you are recovering from major personal setbacks.
Yeah, let's talk about that setback because it's terrifying. High school sophomore year, the author is literally hit in the face with a baseball bat.
Just horrific.
Yeah, it accidentally slipped out of a classmate's hands, and the impact was devastating.
Wow.
We're talking multiple shattered bones in his face, skull fractures, and swelling so severe he was actually placed in a medically induced coma. He had to be flown by helicopter to a larger hospital. Like, it wasn't just a bump on the head. He couldn't drive a car for nearly a year, and he struggled with double vision for weeks.
And when you or I face a trauma of that magnitude, the cultural narrative we constantly hear tells us that we need a massive, heroic comeback story.
Right, the Rocky montage.
Exactly. We expect a sudden miracle or that movie montage where the protagonist pushes through the pain in one glorious leap. But what the source material reveals is that his recovery didn't look like a movie at all.
No.
When he eventually went off to college at Denison University, he didn't regain control of his life through these grand, sweeping gestures. He rebuilt his life entirely through tiny, everyday routines.
And you can see why that approach is so critical, especially for a student who is already juggling an overwhelming new environment.
Oh, absolutely.
He just desperately wanted to get his life in order. So while his peers were staying up until 3 a.m. playing video games, he simply focused on building good sleep habits by going to bed early. He made it a point to keep his dorm room neat and tidy. He eventually started lifting weights a few times a week.
And if we look at the psychology behind that, it's not really about having a clean room or, bigger biceps.
Right.
It's about the psychological shift. Those improvements were minor on paper, but they provided him with a profound sense of control over a life that had felt utterly chaotic since his injury.
He was proving it to himself.
Exactly. He was proving that he could manage his environment, and that growing belief in his own agency rippled right into the classroom. He naturally improved his study habits, which helped him manage his busy academic schedule, and he ultimately earned straight A's and the university's highest academic honor.
The President's Medal.
The President's Medal, yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is where the underlying math of habit formation changes everything. Habits are essentially the compound interest of self-improvement.
That's a great way to put it.
Just like putting $5 in a savings account today doesn't suddenly make you a millionaire, tidying your dorm room once or getting one solid night of sleep doesn't automatically fix a disastrous semester.
No, of course not.
The immediate result is practically invisible. But the compounding effect of making those tiny choices consistently over time, that completely changes the trajectory of your life.
Precisely. It is all about the mathematics of compounding. The source material lays this out beautifully. Like, if you can get just 1% better every day for 1 year, the math dictates that you end up 37 times better by the time you were done.
37 times, that's wild.
It really is. But it works both ways. If you get 1% worse every day, if you let the friction of life grind you down slightly day by day, you decline nearly down to zero.
The British cycling team example from the text is the ultimate proof of this compounding effect. Their story is just insane.
But legendary.
Professional cycling in Great Britain was a historic disaster. They were the laughingstock of the sport. For nearly 100 years, dating back to 1908, they had won exactly one Olympic gold medal.
Ouch.
Right. The reputation was so bad that a top bike manufacturer in Europe actually refused to sell bikes to the team, because they genuinely feared it would hurt their brand's reputation if people saw the British riders using their gear.
Yeah, it was a systemic failure. But then, in 2003, everything pivoted. They hired Dave Brailsford as their performance director, and he brought in a philosophy he called the aggregation of marginal gains.
Marginal gains.
Right. It wasn't about finding one secret weapon. It was the philosophy of searching for a tiny 1% margin of improvement in literally every single thing you do.
And they took this to an obsessive level. Like, they obviously redesigned the bike seats to make them more aerodynamic, but then they went beyond the bike.
Way beyond.
They tested different massage gels to see which specific formula led to the fastest muscle recovery. They hired a surgeon to come in and teach the riders how to wash their hands properly to reduce the chances of catching a cold during competition.
Which is brilliant.
They tested different pillows and mattresses and then brought the best ones to hotels for the riders to use on the road. They even painted the inside of the team truck pristine white.
And we should highlight why they painted the truck white. It wasn't for aesthetics.
Right.
A white floor allowed them to spot tiny little bits of dust that would normally go unnoticed, but could ultimately degrade the highly tuned bike mechanics. It's about controlling the hidden variables.
Wow.
And the result of aggregating all these tiny gains was a complete transformation. They went on to win an astonishing 60% of the gold medals available at the 2008 Olympics, and they captured 5 Tour de France victories in 6 years.
That's just staggering.
It fundamentally proves that massive success doesn't require massive heroic action. Small 1% improvements accumulate into remarkable, unignorable results.
So the math is undeniably clear. Small changes compound. But to use our earlier analogy, how do you map a route out of the darkroom if you don't even know where you are standing right now?
Yeah, you need a starting point.
Exactly. How do you know which 1% habits you are actually repeating on a daily basis? Before you can draw up a new roadmap, you have to figure out your starting line.
Which brings us to one of the biggest hurdles in human behavior, the problem of automaticity.
Automaticity.
Yes. By the time we become adults, our brains have offloaded so much processing that our habits are entirely unconscious. You tie the right shoe first, you unplug the toaster after using it, you grab your phone the second your eyes open. You don't actively decide to do these things.
No, it just happens.
The basal ganglia in your brain has taken over to save energy. And the trap here is that you absolutely cannot change what you do not notice.
To fix that, the source material points to the Japanese railway system, which has this brilliantly simple method for dealing with unconscious behavior called pointing and calling.
It is a fascinating mechanism. The train operators literally point at different objects in their environment and physically call out their status.
Like pointing at a light.
Right, they point at the track signal and say out loud, "Signal is green." As the train pulls into a station, the operator points at the speedometer and verbally calls out the exact speed.
I love the psychology of this.
Yeah.
By forcing themselves to physically point and speak, they are pulling an action out of that automatic, lazy part of the brain
Yes.
and forcing the prefrontal cortex,
Yeah.
the conscious aware part of the brain, to engage.
Yeah.
It brings non-conscious actions into conscious awareness to drastically reduce errors.
Exactly. And we need to build a point-and-call system for our own personal lives. That is the entire purpose of the Habit Scorecard. It's a foundational tool for you to audit your daily routines before you try to change anything.
So for you listening, here is exactly how you perform this audit. You sit down and make a list of everything you do from the exact moment you wake up.
Get granular with it.
Right, really granular. You wake up, you turn off the alarm, you check your phone, you walk to the bathroom, you turn on the shower, you brush your teeth, you put on the kettle. You just list every single behavioral step out on paper.
And once you have that list, you identify the nature of these habits. You look at each one and mark it. Put a plus sign next to the positive habits, a minus sign next to the negative ones, and an equal sign next to the neutral ones.
Okay, simple enough.
But determining what is positive or negative isn't always obvious. So the guiding question for this audit is critical to keep in mind. Does this behavior help me become the type of person I wish to be? Does this specific habit cast a vote for or against my desired identity?
Okay, I have to stop right there and ask what I think a lot of people are feeling. Because if I'm a stressed college student, or honestly, just someone who is trying to get their life together, and I sit down and do this granular audit, and I realize that 80% of my morning habits are marked with a giant negative sign. Isn't that incredibly depressing? Am I not just going to feel terrible about myself? What's the point of staring at a list of all my flaws?
That is a very natural and honestly a very common reaction. But it's crucial to understand the mechanism of the scorecard. The text emphasizes that the goal of this audit is pure observation, pure awareness.
No judgment.
There is absolutely no self-judgment involved. You are not praising yourself for the plus signs, and you are definitely not shaming yourself for the minus signs. If you notice that your habit is eating a chocolate bar every single morning instead of a healthy breakfast, you just acknowledge it clinically.
Like data.
Exactly, as if you were studying a bug under a microscope. You are just an impartial cartographer creating an accurate map of your current terrain. You can't fix the terrain if you're busy judging the dirt.
I like that. We're just map makers. Okay, so we have an honest map of where we are. Now we need the step-by-step roadmap to start replacing those negative habits and actively building better ones.
Right into the 4 laws.
Yes, the source material structures this into 4 core laws of behavior change.
Right.
And the first step is manipulating your environment by making the cues impossible to ignore.
Right, because every habit is initiated by a cue. And the most effective strategy for making a cue obvious is called habit stacking.
Habit stacking.
Yeah, it relies on the fact that your brain already has dense, established neural networks for things you do every day without fail. So the formula is, after current habit, I will new habit. You piggyback the new behavior onto the old one.
This is a massive unlock for a busy student. Instead of making a vague, doomed-to-fail goal like, I really need to study more today, which relies entirely on fleeting motivation, you stack it.
You tie it to an anchor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You say, after I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will open my biology notes. You tie the desired behavior to an anchor that already happens every single morning.
And you must prime your physical environment to support that stack. Behavior is deeply context-dependent.
Oh, for sure.
If your goal is a tidy room, design the environment so the cues are visible and the friction is practically zero. Put a laundry hamper right next to the door.
Make it obvious.
If you want to drink more water, don't hide the water filter in the fridge. Fill up 3 bottles and place them on your desk, your nightstand, and your kitchen counter. If you want to practice guitar, put the guitar stand right in the middle of the living room, not tucked away in the back of a closet.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Habit stacking is basically like creating the perfect DJ playlist.
Oh, I love that comparison.
Right. If the songs are mixed right, one track seamlessly fades into the exact right next track without any dead air. It completely removes the friction of having to stand there and make a decision about what to do next. The music just keeps playing, and the momentum carries you forward.
That's a fantastic analogy. It utilizes existing momentum. But here's the reality check. Obvious cues and smooth momentum aren't always enough if the new behavior itself sounds miserable.
True.
Which brings us to the next phase of the roadmap. You have to make the habit attractive.
Right, because human beings are biologically wired to chase rewards.
Exactly. Our brains release dopamine not just when we experience pleasure, but when we anticipate it. To leverage that and make a hard habit irresistible, you can use a psychological strategy called temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling.
Yeah, you explicitly pair an action you need to do with an action you want to do.
So for a student who is desperately trying to balance hitting the books and actually having a social life, this is absolute gold.
Yeah.
You give yourself a highly specific scenario.
Right.
You say, after I study for 20 minutes, which is the hard thing I need to do, I will spend 5 minutes checking my group chat and scrolling social media, which is the fun thing I want to do.
And this raises a really vital point about the language we use internally to frame our obligations. We constantly talk about things we have to do.
Oh yeah, I have to study.
Exactly. I have to study for this exam. I have to go to the gym. I have to cook dinner tonight. But neurologically, that framing turns the activity into a threat or a burden.
It sounds awful.
If you simply consciously reframe have to into get to, you shift your entire mindset. You get to build endurance by running. You get to learn fascinating new concepts by studying. You transition from seeing these behaviors as heavy obligations and turn them into opportunities.
But let's be totally honest. Even if we make a habit obvious with a cue, and we make it attractive with a reward, we still abandon ship sometimes.
Of course we do.
And the reason usually isn't a lack of desire. It's because our goals are just overwhelmingly intimidating. Sitting down to write a 10-page research paper is terrifying. Which leads us to the next crucial step in the roadmap, reducing the friction to zero.
Human nature is fundamentally governed by the law of least effort. Given two options, we will naturally and subconsciously gravitate toward the option that requires the least amount of physical and mental work.
We're lazy.
We are. So, to combat our tendency to get paralyzed by overwhelming tasks, we deploy the 2-minute rule. The rule dictates, when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do.
It's all about aggressively scaling down the ambition. So, for you listening, if you want to put this into daily practice, here's how you translate it. Your goal to fold the entire basket of laundry becomes fold one single pair of socks.
Perfect.
Your goal to run 3 miles becomes tie my running shoes. Your goal to study for class becomes open my notebook.
What is happening here psychologically is that you are mastering what the author calls the decisive moment. It's about securing the entry point. There's a brilliant story in the source material about the legendary choreographer Twyla Tharp.
Oh, I know this one.
She is known for a grueling 2-hour daily workout routine. She wakes up at 5:30 a.m., puts on her gym clothes, and hails a taxi to the gym. But she explicitly notes that her daily habit is not the 2-hour weight training session.
Right.
Her habit is hailing the cab. The moment she gives this driver the gym's address, the ritual is complete. The rest is just momentum.
So the habit isn't the entire journey, it's just the first domino falling.
Precisely. You have to standardize a behavior before you can optimize it. You simply cannot improve a habit that doesn't exist yet. The cab ride is the standardization.
Wait, hold on. I need to play devil's advocate here. Because if I'm a student who is on the verge of losing an academic scholarship, and you tell me that my new strategy is to open my biology notes for 2 minutes and then close them.
I know how it sounds.
That feels like terrible advice. How is a 2-minute study session going to help me pass an organic chemistry final? Am I just tricking myself into feeling productive?
It sounds like a trick, but it absolutely isn't. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the 2 minutes is not about the academic output of that specific tiny study session. It is about a psychological concept called habit shaping.
Habit shaping.
Yes. Every time you open that book, even if it's only for 120 seconds, you are casting a vote for a new identity. If you master the friction of simply opening your notes every single day without fail, you are actively building the identity of a dedicated student.
Oh, I see.
You are becoming the type of person who does not miss study sessions. And once that core identity is established, it naturally scales into longer, deeper, highly effective study sessions because the friction of starting has been permanently removed.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You're building the infrastructure first. So what does this look like over the long haul? You've started the habit using the 2-minute rule. You're casting votes for your new identity. But making a good choice today doesn't guarantee you'll do it tomorrow. How do you keep it going for the weeks, months, and years required to achieve long-term mastery?
That requires the final law of the roadmap, providing a satisfying reward. The cardinal rule of behavior change states that what is immediately rewarded is repeated, and what is immediately punished is avoided.
Which is tricky because human beings are completely addicted to immediate gratification.
Yes, and there's a deep evolutionary reason for that. We evolved in what biologists call an immediate return environment.
Like hunter-gatherer times.
Exactly. Think about our ancestors roaming the savannah. Almost all of their daily decisions had an immediate life or death impact. What to eat right now, where to find shelter tonight, how to avoid that predator immediately.
High stakes right away.
But modern society is a delayed return environment. The reward for grinding out a college degree, or seeing cardiovascular health benefits from the gym, or saving for retirement is months, years, or decades away.
And our brains just aren't wired for that patience.
No, that delayed timeline is simply not enough to sustain daily action for the primitive parts of the human brain. We need to feel a sense of success immediately.
Which is exactly where simple habit tracking comes to the rescue. For students who are juggling a million different deadlines, the advice here is profound. Keep it incredibly simple. Get a physical calendar, put it on your wall, and use a big red marker to cross off each day you stick to your routine.
The visual is key.
It creates a highly visual streak. Benjamin Franklin famously carried a small physical booklet everywhere to track his 13 personal virtues. Comedian Jerry Seinfeld used a giant wall calendar to track his daily joke writing to make sure he didn't break the chain.
Right, don't break the chain.
Seeing that unbroken chain of X's grow provides that immediate, tangible reward your primitive brain is desperately craving.
It makes invisible progress suddenly visible. But we have to be realistic here. Inevitably, the chain will break.
Life happens.
Life is chaotic. You will get the flu, or a last-minute exam will force you to miss a workout, or your impeccably tidy dorm room will explode into a mess during finals week. Perfection is an illusion.
Totally.
So when slip-ups happen, the source material offers a golden rule of tracking to prevent a total collapse. Never miss twice.
I love that. Never miss twice.
If you miss one day of a habit, you must treat it as an absolute priority to get back on track the very next day. One miss is just a random accident. It has zero statistical impact on your long-term compounding.
It's a blip.
But missing twice in a row, that is the mathematical start of a brand new bad habit. It is the downward spiral of repeated mistakes that ruins your progress, not the initial slip. Anyone can have a bad day, but the hallmark of successful people is that they rebound immediately.
Wow. Okay, let's zoom out and summarize this entire roadmap. We started by exploring how tiny 1% changes can fundamentally help you recover from massive life setbacks, just like the incredible story of the author's recovery from his devastating baseball bat injury. We learned that before we can change, we have to audit our automatic behaviors using the habit scorecard, becoming impartial map makers without judging ourselves.
No judgment.
Right. And then we laid out the roadmap for daily practice, making the right cues obvious with habit stacking, making the routines attractive by bundling our temptations, reducing friction to zero with a 2-minute rule, and feeding our brain's need for immediate satisfaction by tracking our streaks.
And the beauty of the system is that it allows anyone, whether you are a deeply stressed student needing consistent study routines, or an entrepreneur chasing a massive long-term goal, to shift the weight of your environment in your favor.
Shift the weight.
Yes, when you design your cues and your rewards this way, making good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible just becomes a natural byproduct of your day. You are no longer white-knuckling it with sheer motivation. You are relying on an engineered system.
It all comes down to the system.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with one final kind of provocative thought from the source material. It's called the Goldilocks rule, and it warns about a deeply hidden threat: the danger of boredom.
Oh, this is a crucial, often overlooked concept for anyone pursuing long-term mastery.
Think about it. Once you follow this roadmap and you build these perfect routines and they become fully automatic, they will eventually become boring.
Yeah, the novelty wears off.
They lose their novelty. Human beings experience peak motivation when we are working on tasks that are right on the edge of our current abilities. Not too hard, not too easy.
Right.
So, what if the greatest threat to your long-term success isn't failure or a lack of motivation, but simply getting bored with the repetition? How will you learn to fall in love with boredom in order to achieve true greatness?
It is a phenomenal question to sit with because, frankly, anyone can work hard when they feel inspired or motivated, but showing up and stepping up when the work is annoying or painful or just mind-numbingly dull,
That's the real test.
that is the exact dividing line between an amateur and a professional. Professionals stick to the schedule even when the magic is gone.
They really do. And when you commit to that, when you learn to embrace the boredom and relentlessly stick to those tiny 1% improvements, suddenly that pitch black, confusing room of your life that we talked about at the beginning,
It isn't dark anymore.
it isn't. The lights come on, the chaos disappears, and all you see is the incredibly strong, compounded framework you've built, one tiny atomic habit at a time. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.